I'd like to invite Mike Conley to come up to the lectern here and talk to us a little about professionalism. I think we all quite often need a little bit of this kind of help.
Thank you, Hollis. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
Tonight we're going to talk about. Well, let me give you some background. When you join a company, a corporation, they usually try to size you up as to what kind of qualifications you have, and professionalism is no different from anything else. So I've come up with this method that was designed by Microsoft many years ago to try to measure the qualifications of the people they're hiring and what they might be better suited for. And I've kind of modified this a little bit so it applies to home inspecting. This is a very real test, and it's used throughout the world with different companies. Now the review after the test, after you take the test, we'll review the answers and determine why the best answer should have been chosen. Now the end result of all that may be a little bit more on the fun side. Don't take it too seriously, but the questions themselves are very real and used quite extensively. And we're going to do this for home inspecting. What you will need is something to write with and a piece of paper. And that said, let's see. Well, a little bit of foreground here. Microsoft Corporation uses a testing approach to measure the capabilities of its employees, as I mentioned. It's pretty universal, the testing. These tests have been adapted for our profession. Result of this test will give you insight in where you stand as a professional home inspector and your rating quotient. This is a timed exercise. It's not very long. I try to keep it as minimal as I can. Now, in real life, there wouldn't be just 16 questions. There'd be 50 or 60 or 100 questions, but we don't have that kind of time. All right, so it's a time test. There's 16 questions. You're going to have a total of 15 seconds to answer each question for a total of 4 minutes. And if everybody's ready and they have a piece of paper and something to write with, we are going to get started. Tonight, we're going to take a little exercise in home inspecting professionalism, utilizing a universal test that was designed by Microsoft many years ago, and I've kind of modified it to our industry, our profession. And basically what it is when a corporation hires an employee, or if you start your own business as an employer, you want to get some idea of the person you're dealing with, what kind of qualities and things, educational things they might have that will make them better suited for certain things. And this is that, only it's going to be a designed for home inspecting. Now, this is a very truncated test. It's only 16 questions. Normally, there would be like 40, 50, 75 questions or more in a typical corporation. We don't have that kind of time. So I've limited it to 16, which is a very narrow interpretation of what this could be. Now, these questions themselves are very real and they're very serious. And at the end of the test, we're going to go over the answers and why you should have chosen the one that's the correct one. The end result of all that is going to be a little bit more comical. We're doing it for fun. Don't take that too seriously, but the test questions themselves are very real. And as I said, Microsoft Corporation uses this testing approach. It's universal, basically. Results of this test will give you insight of where you stand as a professional home inspector via a rating quotient. And timed exercise, there are 16 random questions, 15 seconds to answer each question. You're going to need something to write with and a piece of paper. And the test will take a total of 4 minutes. If everybody's ready, we will get started. Okay, that was it. Hopefully you kept up and you've written down your answers. We're going to discuss what the answers are. Which one should have been your choice, even though you may have come close on some of them. We'll also tally the results so you can see how well you did. Exercise today is to move you from your inspection comfort zone and reevaluate how you inspect. Challenging our routines helps us become better inspectors. Yes, there is a 4th of July. It comes after the 3rd of July. This question has to do with assumptions. 4th is an American observance. In other parts of the world, it's a regular day. How many birthdays does a person have? Just one. A person is born once. We celebrate it over and over. This question has to do with routine. Routines cause us to stop thinking. All 12 months have 29 days in them. This question has to do with overanalyzing information. Home inspectors are notorious for doing this. Is it legal for a man in California to marry his widowed sister? No, because that person is dead. This question has to do with clarity. It's a home inspector's task to take something complicated and simplify it. If you have 3 apples and you take away 2, how many do you have? Well, you have 2. You just took them away. This question has to do with interpretation. Will your client interpret what you've written the way you wrote it? 17 sheep and all but 9 die. How many are left? 9, the ones that are left. Accurate reports will keep you out of angry situations and out of court.
I got one right.
How many animals of each sex did Moses take on the ark? He didn't take any because it was Noah who did the ark, not Moses. Did you assume Noah? Listening to your client is as important as speaking to them. Building is to wood as wood is to cellulose. Another thinking question about relationships, how building components relate to each other. 2 words from each group that are closest in meaning, raise and elevate. You should take technical terms and convert them to understandable language in your report. Hand is to glove as head is to hat. When inspecting, found defects can impact unrelated systems and components. How does one defect relate to another? You have to keep that in the back of your mind while you're doing the inspection. A fallacious argument is a false argument. Using fallacious explanations to further bad information will only make things worse. Correct your mistakes and move on. Inept is the opposite of skillful. You may or may not know what these words mean. Remember that the words you use when speaking and in your report may or may not have meaning to the person they are directed at. True knowledge exists in knowing that you know nothing. This question references confidence. Be alert to overconfidence, which will lead to mistakes and faulty judgments. Which one of these 5 things is least like the other 4? Grapes are least like the other 4 because they have no pits. All of the other items had pits in them. This question relates to items that may or may not be obvious. Keen observation will reveal what we need to report. A cynic is one who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. We all deal with clients who want the cheapest priced inspector. How about the best value inspector? In other words, they get what they pay for, but oftentimes it's too late before they realize that. Question 16 has to do with the jar, the glass jar, and there are multiple right answers. Some are more accurate than others. The most concise answer is dolphins. There are 9 of them. And you want to be as concise as possible when you write your reports. You don't think there's 9? Count them with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, the results. If you chose A, you don't know for each answer, then your score is 0. And the result of that is we know you have no friends and your life will not amount to much. Get out of the business while you can. Send all your referrals to others in this meeting group. If you got 1 to 8 for a score, you are probably an alcoholic. You may only be sued 5 or 6 times per year as a home inspector. Carry lots of liability and E&O insurance. Plan on paying a high premium and then being canceled. If you got 9 to 12 as a score, your life generally will take a turn for the better soon, but you may be sued 2 or 3 times in the next 5 years. File a fictitious name and have a backup so when the litigation comes, you can disappear into your next DBA. If you got 13 through 16 for a score, your ability to hear, see, and interpret what was said and seen is excellent, and you will make a great home inspector. Lawsuit quotient, 0 to maybe 1 in your lifetime. Plan on testifying against the lower scored folks. This test has been used for 50 years with great accuracy. No score is final as everyone has the ability to improve or get worse. Bill Gates took this test and scored a 9. Regardless of your score, there's always room for improvement. As inspectors, we are constantly learning.